I don't even think about turnover anymore. Turnover, it literally means nothing to me.
Duayne, you and I both see so many builders out there touting these massive turnovers, like these big figures, as this kind of measure of their success. And it being something that lots of builders will aspire to. They literally set themselves benchmarks of, I want to have this size business, I want to have this size business, I want to hit this many figures by this point in time. Tell me, which do you think is more important, turnover or profit?
Look, in the past it was all turnover, like 100% focused on turnover. I didn't really know any difference, and I actually used to focus so much on turnover that I had a figure in my mind from a very young age, actually, that I wanted to turn over in a business, and I felt that if I turned over that amount, I would be successful. And the thing is that just before, like, we were literally within a couple of $100,000 of my target. And just before we got to it was when I actually got to a point where everything was falling apart, and we actually made no money.
Wow.
Like the year that we nearly got to the turnover that I'd been trying to reach for probably 10 years, a good 8 to 10 years, was actually one of our worst ever years in business.
That must have been really hard to kind of figure that you weren't where, like you thought, because I do see that lots of builders think that once they're at that turnover, it's going to solve a whole heap of their problems, or it means that they're going to afford a particular kind of lifestyle or be able to live in a particular area, or, have their business working a certain way. It must have been really, like, confronting for you to be almost there and for things to not look like you'd expected them to. Oh,
it was devastating. Like but again, it was a reality check. Like, I was being told by my accounts manager in my office for a long time that our pricing wasn't correct, we weren't making the money we should have been making, but I just had this mindset of, how can I not be making money if we are turning over that amount of money? Like, if we are literally turning over millions and millions of dollars, I need to at least be making a bit of, like, I'm making something. Like, where is it all going? And I just had no understanding of what it was actually taking to run my business. And the reality check was that at the end of the day, turnover is absolutely nothing if you have profit. And like, we see it now, and now that I'm sort of I'm over and it's on my radar, like, it's funny because you see these massive multinational companies that turn over hundreds of millions, some billions of dollars, and you'll see these tiny little profit margins. And I just think, what for? Like, why do all that? So for me, it was a big reality check, and again, it comes back to that taking responsibility and owning it. And so I don't even think about turnover anymore. Turnover, it literally means nothing to me. Like, my business needs to be sustainable, and for it to be sustainable, I need to be profitable.
Do you think that lots of builders struggle with this because turnover almost becomes like an easy target? Because you just know if you've got a certain number of projects at a certain contract sum per project, that's going to add up to that turnover target. But if you don't know what actually generates your profit, or you're not keeping track of your numbers, that becomes very difficult. Like, how do you see that happening for builders, and where the problems lie?
Look, the problem for me lie that I wasn't going back and reviewing our data. It was purely, in my mind, it was purely focused on the value of each project, and when you added up all our projects, what the turnover was. And it was just an absolute recipe for disaster. I had no systems in place. I didn't, and to be honest, I didn't really understand. Like, we would quite often go back and, like, I would check some actuals, like framing against what we had quoted and what it actually cost us. And a lot of the time they were, like, our quoting was actually quite accurate. But again, it come back to me not understanding what it was taking to run a business. And it's actually a huge reality check when you, and we see it with our members, like, when you actually sit down and, like, we've got our overhead calculator sheet that we work through our members with, and it's funny, like, it's some people just, it's like an instant light bulb moment. They get excited because they'll see that instantly from this point on they're going to make money. Others get upset. Others, like, I probably put myself in a bit of a hole for a little while when I found out, because I'd had this goal of turnover for so long, and when I actually started to understand the numbers and that we weren't making any money, I was a bit ashamed of what I'd been chasing, and probably more ashamed that I didn't understand, because of the value of the business we were running. I didn't understand what it was taking to run, and I sort of felt a bit silly, stupid, not sure on the word of it, but I think it's just one of those things. Again, there's so many great builders out there, and we just don't understand even some of the simple things that it takes to run a business. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, like we've said, if you're turning over 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion, if you don't understand your numbers and you're not covering your costs and you're not making profit, it's all a waste of time. And if you think increasing your turnover is going to solve the situation you're in, you're going to get more cash flow, all you're doing is digging a deeper and deeper hole.
Yeah, so don't get in that trap of thinking that turnover is the holy grail and the target that you need to aim for. Profit is far more important. So start figuring out, how does your business need to make a profit? What does that look like? And focus on that, and you'll be in a much better position financially.